Hey, the set's different again.
But at least I'm not sedentary. All right, so I guess we're I'm just not very set in my ways. We keep the people out there are like, what the hell, man? Yeah, we just I keep, next thing you know, it'll be in the bathroom. I keep changing room to room, and there's a little bit of an echo in this room. So
would you say that your settings have been reset?
Oh God, I can't even think of another set pun. You know, I wasn't. You didn't give me a good enough setup. Oh God. So anyway, this is the new set area. I'm not sure what I'm going to do to dampen the sound because I'm renting this place, and you know, the person I'm renting from, she was like, "Do not put anything on the walls. No holes on the walls." Even though the walls are kind of covered in holes, I'm almost afraid to put a nail into a pre-existing nail hole. Get some nail hole filler because I'm worried that if the hole is any bigger, she's that precise. I'm worried that she's measured each hole in the wall down to the micron, and she's going to come back and be like, security deposit forfeit. This hole is 2 microns larger than it was when I left. So I was thinking about hanging something on the wall to dampen the sound, but how do you do it without putting a hole in the wall? Magnets.
Nail hole filler and nail hole filler accessories.
So that's from pre-YouTube time. Anyway, we'll deal with the echo and we'll move on and talk about what's happening. So first off, the Pirate Party in Iceland is first place in the polls. Let me just go ahead and get that out of the way and scroll on down. Look at that. They surged. And this is them a couple years ago when they haven't even been around for very long, but the Pirate Party is really about the people, civil liberties, and they're really into, you know, free speech and the free sharing of information and, you know, open free internet and all that sort of, not free internet, but open internet, I guess, freedom on the internet. That's very interesting that they're number one. I mean, the Pirate Party didn't even come from there. It came from actually a couple of guys in the Pirate Bay, you know, and it exists over in Sweden. And I guess there's a very small Pirate Party with the chair being down in Georgia here in the USA. They got like 12 members or something. They meet up and drink beer and put on eye patches. No, they probably do something, but I don't know.
The Pirate Party is really a misnomer. It's the political situation in many countries, in many advanced countries, is, you know, Iceland's a pretty advanced country as far as a lot of things go. It's really, I mean, you could just as easily call it, you know, the party for reasonableness and common sense, because all the other parties have lost their damn minds.
Maybe that's what it is. They're trying to usurp the power from the powers that be, and therefore they're pirates because they're ready to ride in and take over. But yeah, the Pirate Party, it is sort of a misnomer, like you just said. It does have maybe the young generation is like, yeah, just they're so sick of everything. They're like, yeah, we're all pirates. Screw this. Let's take over the government. I mean, they threw a lot of bankers in jail over there, you know, in Iceland, and that kind of got the rest of the world going, shut up, don't talk about it. Do not talk about that. That is not good. We do not want anyone to get any bright ideas. Luckily here is everyone kind of sits on their couch and goes, that's neat. Change the channel. You know, pretty much what we get around here. So I don't know if anything's going to come of it or not. You want to joke around about this Apple thing that you thought was an Onion article when I first sent this to you?
I saw this and I was like, oh, someone has picked up an Onion article as real news again. Nope.
So here's what Apple has done. The whole, you know, Confederate flag thing, everyone's freaking out about it. People are climbing flagpoles to rip it down. And I thought it was really funny that a black guy took the girl to jail. Like, you see a couple black officers putting her in jail. Wouldn't they be like, hold on. Anyway, that's a different story. We won't even talk about that right here. So Apple has been removing games that feature the Confederate flag. And we're talking like historical games, like the Civil War. This is a Civil War game. They largely use the flag in historical context. It was something that happened. We should not forget our history. We need to know where we came from. And I mean, if you look at games that have that have World War II, there are swastikas in those games. They are historically accurate. They do not, you know, try to bend history or remove things from history. But Apple here is removing games. And what's even funnier about the double standard? You can go onto the Apple Store right now and you can, where is it at? You can download a copy of Mein Kampf, and that's got a swastika right there on the, well, there it is right there. You can get Mein Kampf. written by Mr. Hitler himself, and it's got the swastika on it. And you can get a lot of other things with swastikas on them. And you know what? You can even go and get the Dukes of Hazzard. You can watch that. And in the Dukes of Hazzard, they drive around. They've got a Confederate
General
flag.
Lee.
Yeah, the General Lee.
That's the General Lee.
It is. General Lee speaking. It is probably going to offend someone, but they made it. It's something that's out there. And Apple's kind of taking an interesting stance on this. They're coming out and saying things to people like, hey, if you want to explore these sort of provocative themes and whatever, if you want to explore, like sexual themes, or if you want to explore stuff about, racism, whatever, why don't you go and write a book and we'll be happy to put that on the App Store.
Wow.
That's a bit weird because, a few years ago, they actually were supporting some of their games by calling them art. But now, that was when, it was profitable to say the games were art. But now, when it comes down to these games, they're telling them, no, if you guys are not making art, if you want to make art, go write a book or something. Make a movie, That's games aren't art. Did we ever say that they were art? Oh, maybe we did.
This Touch Arcade article has several updates, as things kind of unfold. And, Apple was being very Apple, which is insanely obtuse. This always amuses me because it's clearly whoever's at the helm there just has no common sense at all. And so this is a perfectly reasonable, in my opinion, Civil War 1863 game. And it's like, nope, it's down. It's like, well, can we appeal? And it's like, no, you can't appeal. This is not a thing. And then after these things are getting attention, Apple's like, well, okay, we'll let it back, but you're going to have to change the home screen to not have the Confederate flag. And there's screenshots right here, and it's like, this is completely reasonable. It's like in the background. This is clearly, they got rid of the guy's goatee. So apparently there's some sort of Star Trek component to it too. So it's like, oh no, they added a goatee. They added a goatee.
What?
Yeah, I just noticed that. It looks like there's a little picture of a goatee on a guy. So apparently this is the Star Trek parallel universe. And so that's an evil dude on a horse with the real American flag. So I don't know what that's saying. I guess that's a thing.
Yeah, I have no idea. Anyway.
So it's like, with the new icon, we'll allow it back. And it's like, this is some sort of weird maneuvering to make it like as if it was okay for Apple to do this. But in fact, it was just Apple being typical Apple arbitrariness. And this is why I have problems with Apple.
Apple, if you really, really cared about social justice, why don't you change the pressure that you put on companies in Asia? And, maybe...
Hush now. None of that. Shh. La, 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 la. I can't hear you. La, 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 la.
We're going to do it right now. Because while we were over there, a lot of Westerners, they think that the entirety of Asia is just child labor and people getting whipped to work 7 days a week, 20 hours a day, that kind of stuff. And that is a pretty dangerous stereotype because a lot of the places do not work that way. And a lot of the ones that do are pressured to do so by companies like Apple. And when we went to tour, and look and talk to different factories and different companies, a lot of them had severe disdain for Apple and, well, also Foxconn, but Apple, because of the pressure that Apple puts on a lot of the companies. And then that ends up giving China a bad name as a whole because people forget that it's Apple doing these things. So Apple, if you really do care about social issues and humanity as a whole, why don't you start there and stop doing this whole reactionary thing where it's like, oh, someone's mad at a flag. Let's just take down every historically accurate video game that has that flag in it. Because it's just silly. It's just, I don't even know. Apple, don't buy Apple products. Do not buy Apple products. That's the end of this. I think we need a T-shirt that just says "Don't buy Apple products." We need a T-shirt that says that about a lot of different companies, but
remember
you guys
to
are
vote
not
with your
supporting
wallet.
a good company, like at all. All right, let's check out Squarespace. We've built our website with Squarespace. It's been incredibly easy. And the thing I like about Squarespace is the fact that it just puts the content forward and gets out of the way. There's not a lot of bubbly nonsense anywhere. Plenty of templates to choose from, and I know a lot of you guys want total control. There is Get Access. Just take a look at a couple of the different features here. There's the new cover pages. If you just need something, as a splash page or one page, you can use it for that, or you can use it as a cover page for your store or whatever. Really good for musicians. It allows you to integrate Bandcamp, or you can sell your stuff right on here, SoundCloud, whatever you want. About $8 a month, depending on your plan and what you guys are doing. And we do have some discount codes for the Tech Syndicate members. Just go to their website and use the promo code Tech Syndicate. You can click on the screen and get there just the same. Now back to the regularly scheduled tech. So last week we talked a little bit about faith tracking. Where did I learn to speak? Kentucky. That's where I grew up. So and they don't teach you how to speak correctly. You have to read books of how to do it. Anyway, so face tracking. We learned about face tracking. Talked about face tracking. What, I don't even. Can you do this? Damn it. Last week we talked a little bit about face tracking and the future, and apparently it's already out there everywhere, and it's being used in surprising places, like churches, and the church. Most of them have been kept secret, but lots of churches are using this. It's been used at music festivals to track criminals. You know, like when they go out, people who are, out there hiding in sports places and stuff. They're like, oh, there's a troublemaker, aisle 7. So they're using it for that. But now churches are using this to figure out, who's skipping church. That's pretty interesting.
That seems reasonable. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that one of the key tenets of church, the idea of church in general, is to be in touch with members of your community. And I never understood like mega churches. It's like, oh, these people are going to drive for an hour and a half to their population center, or an hour or whatever to their population center, and go to church with 30,000 other people on Sunday. At that scale, it's so impersonal. I mean, you can't manage 30,000 people. At that point, it just seems like a pyramid scheme. It doesn't really seem like it's very far removed from, the white robes, let's drink the Kool-Aid that has the strychnine in it kind of a thing. And so this face recognition would seem to be going in that same way, rather than actually knowing who came to church and or actually caring who shows up at church, because, some human being should have that. We have a situation where the technology is saying, Bob and Sue haven't shown up. Let's see if we can make them show up, or let's see if we can harass them into showing up, or the technology is going to look after them rather than the human being. And I think removing the human component from something like church just seems antithetical.
I went to a mega church for a while when I lived in Florida. My mother, she dragged me to church, and it was comical usually. But anyway, I had to go to a mega church, and we had the giant 40-foot screen behind the preacher, and the guy who looked like a rock star for the the music leader who would come out and be like, "You guys ready to praise the Lord?" and all that kind of stuff. It was like a big mega church, it was over the top. And
was it following the CIA playbook on brainwashing?
We probably shouldn't even get into this because we're going to lose half our audience. But I think people are wise enough these days. Anyway, one of the things I found really peculiar, and it was a First Baptist church. They're very good at business stuff. So one thing that was really peculiar is when I didn't go, or when they had a record of everyone who was there, and they also had a record of how much you were tithing. And if I didn't go or didn't give them any money, I would get collections letters in the mail, and they weren't mandatory. They weren't going to report to my credit bureau that like, hey, dude's not giving God any money. Like, it's not going to like lower my credit score, but they were worded like, just like a collections letter. And it was like, all right, so we know that you're making about this much money, and you owe God 10% of that money according to the Bible. And so here's a bill. And it was like, you fill it in, and the postage was paid, and you put your check inside, just like paying a bill. And I was like, go ahead and send us the money, because that's what God wants you to do. So I'm wondering if they're going to incorporate this sort of technology into something like that, where it's an automated machine where they know that you're a member. When you're a member, you fill out a profile. They get like a bracket of how much you make, and then they're going to use this to be like, all right, you're not paying your tithes, so we're going to start billing people. I mean, our churches. I think the First Baptist Church is they're very good at, like I said, very good at business. Some other churches are more into the spirituality or whatever, but they're very business minded. Our church had basically a Starbucks in the church. And a basketball court. It was my favorite part was the basketball court. I was like, this is great. But yeah, it wasn't a Starbucks, but it was a Starbucks. I mean, high stools and everything. But yeah, I'm just wondering how long it's going to be until this technology goes, and becomes something like that, where they're using it to bill people who don't show up.
See, it wasn't. Maybe it's just because it was so poor, like it was such a poor area. But the whole the people that I had experience with in that same sect would be actively offended by such a thing. Anytime that there was some sort of thing that the church needed, or thing that the church wanted to do more often, it was, hey, we're going to, there's a playground, or there's an area for a playground, or, like Doc, somebody is going to donate an acre, and we're going to put a park in there. And so we need like 50 people to show up clear the land. Bob the pipe bender is going to bend a whole bunch of pipes and blah blah blah. And so it was all around labor, and it was all around like, let's do this thing. And it's like, let's do this thing. We need money, some money to do this thing, but mostly we need labor and help from the community and somebody to help us with zoning and codes and dealing with the city for this thing that we're going to do. And then these members of the community will all have elevated the status of their community, and life will be better for everyone. And it's that seems like a thing that should happen with community organizations like churches. And it seems like a good, this, I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to keep emphasizing that it was this mega First Baptist church, just to make sure that I didn't include all the other denominations and all the other churches. It may have just been this one church. And in fact, this one church that I went to, the preacher, I think he's still in jail. He embezzled, or he wasn't embezzling, he was blackmailing. Some rich lady came and she was like, yeah, I screwed around, but I want to confess and talk to you. And he was like, oh, you screwed around. Well, if you give me $1 million, I won't call your husband. It's like, so he's in jail now because finally she was like, you know what? I'd rather tell my husband than give you $1 million if she told her husband and her husband called the cops. But anyway,
the other place I think this is going to be used is in retail, because this is already happening. Yeah. So like if you call Time Warner, or I know Time Warner, I'm not sure about the other cable industries. There's this thing that they have called customer relationship management software, or CRM software. And there are a few companies that make enterprise CRM software. And credit card companies are using this software. Some retailers, especially like the higher end retailers, are using this type of software. Time Warner uses this type of software. And so if you're the type of person to call in and haggle constantly and always get the best deal, they will, pull up your account and it'll be like, this is a low value account. We honestly do not care if they leave. And so it's basically a license for the customer service operator to be as rude as possible, or as rude as they want. And they really do not care if they lose you. And this is going to happen with face recognition technology. So when somebody comes in and is perfectly happy to buy, the sticker price television from Best Buy, you're going to be treated like royalty. But if you come in and it's like, okay, you need a price match with Amazon and you need to do all this other stuff and this kind of thing, the little blue shirt dudes are going to have little heads up displays and little things in their ears that are like, it's like it's super cheapskate at 10 o'clock. Get them out of the store.
That's all we need. That is all we need. I guess we just need technology that allows Best Buy to give you even worse service. That does not sound like something we need.
It's gonna be Time Warner levels of customer service in person. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, but the thing about being in person is you can punch them, right? Maybe you'll be allowed to do that in Boston because they still have that sort of quality control going on there. But in most parts of the country, they're going to be like, "Hey, you're going to jail." I don't think Boston. They're like, "What? Why did he punch you? What did you do?" Oh, you were being an ass. Okay, well you got punched. Everybody goes home. Okay. Anyway, all right, let's move on and talk about Cortana. So Cortana is coming to Android in July. It looks like they're going to be rolling out Cortana on just about everything. It's going to be on Xbox. It's going to be on Android, Windows Phone. I'm not sure about iOS, but Microsoft is trying to basically put Cortana in as many places as possible. And the reason being, remember here, Cortana is going to be a free app. It's going to be nice and free. So let's just remember what happens when you get a free app that gives you access to tons of information. You are the product here. So they're going to be harvesting your data like crazy, and they're going to be using that to make a lot of money. And that's also why it's going to be on devices that are not just Microsoft made and branded devices. It's going to be on Android. You'll see it on other devices. I'm sure there'll be an iOS version if Apple will approve it, because Microsoft is now using this as a really huge cash cow. They're going to be selling that information like crazy, using it for marketing, using it for advertising. So just do not forget who the product is. And that goes true with Facebook and everything else as well. But and even Google to some extent. All the free services that we get from Google. Let's just remember that we're the product there. And Wendell, do you know of any good open source alternatives to stuff like Cortana and Siri and all that? I've kind of like the functionality. It's really nice to have an assistant who can throw things on a calendar for me. I used to use whoever's standing near me at a convention, like if I'm there and Kane's there and my phone's buzzing and stuff, I'm like, I just hand my phone to him. I'm like, it's doing things. I don't like when it does things. Make it not do things anymore. And he'll be like, oh, it's Paul texting us. Let me text him back. I'm like, good, because I don't like touchscreen. You can touch the thing. So that's usually what I do. But if I had like something like Cortana that wasn't harvesting all my data, I would probably actually use it. Do you know of anything?
I don't think that anything exists. If you guys missed my Edison video, I like having, I've got the little thing, this little battery operated Edison that reads things to me, reads status updates and other information in my Bluetooth headset that I wear all the time. And that's almost useful. I can't talk to it. I can't tell it to do things for me, but I can at least keep an eye on things and not actually have to look at my phone. So that's kind of nice, I guess. I've often thought that, there's an app for Android called Tasker, which is sort of it's context aware. It's aware of like where you are and what's going on. And you can fire off tasks with that based on context. So like if I'm heading to home, Tasker can be tied in with the home automation system. So it would automatically turn on the external lights, for example, if I've got a home automation system, so that it's like, oh, you're on your block, let me go ahead and turn the lights on. The Tasker just does that. And so it's not really a big deal to set up those rules. And then once you set them up and you don't have them anymore and you've got a bunch of them, it's like, why something doesn't feel right. And it's like, oh, Tasker's not running. That's why things aren't happening around me. I see now. Yes. But yeah, in terms of a personal digital assistant, I don't think there's an open source one. We should build one, honestly.
I mean, just basic functionality like managing a calendar and that sort of thing. That's pretty much all I would really use it for. I mean, even if there was an offline mode to one of I would download a several gigabyte file to have an offline mode of. Well, maybe I wouldn't do that. I don't know. I don't really use the Google one. Okay, Google thing. I don't really use that much, but
I don't think phones have enough computational horsepower to do it. But if you were running this on, say, like your home server or a server that you control in the cloud, yeah, probably could.
So we just need to build like a magic box of knowledge and put it somewhere in the house and then plug it into the internet. And then that's it. Yeah, we should build one of these things. Maybe we can find somebody who could help us. I don't know. You guys could probably do it.
The lowest hanging fruit would probably be to build some sort of Cortana, Siri, Google search, or Google Now proxy, so that there's something on the internet that a whole bunch of people use. And as long as the proxy could be trusted, that would be a pretty good way to anonymize things, because Microsoft and Google and so on would not be able to see who is actually asking the query. So right. Yeah, the proxy would still be able to see what people are asking. But if the proxy were trusted, then it would remove the identifying information from the actual queries. Although even without identifying information, depending on what you ask, it can still be pretty identifying.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, wait a second, this guy's asking for this stuff on this street in this area. It's probably this guy.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the hackers who stole so much stuff this week. It's not just happened this week. There are several breaches, but it looks like we've got lots of hacking issues in the U.S. government. So I'll let you go ahead and lay down the groundwork, and then we'll joke around about some of the stuff that's come out.
Basically, it looks like Chinese spies managed to compromise the government workers' like human resources records. It's really it goes beyond human resources records. It's like the background check data and the particular perversions of the employees and that sort of thing for basically every government employee up to and including President Obama's cabinet. And these files are incredibly detailed. I don't know why we have all of these files. I don't know why we have all of these files in one place. I especially don't know why we have all of these files in this one place with no encryption. Because I guess the current people in charge of the FBI think encryption is evil, and so none of anybody's stuff is encrypted. So of course the Chinese now have it.
I wonder what they're going to be able to do with that. I mean, I'm sure if they wanted to, they could probably control elections with this kind of stuff, because in these records are things like, okay, so-and-so, they were keeping records for reasons. So-and-so has a drinking problem, and they want to monitor that. They don't, even if it's not something that's like an offense or, they don't need to punish this guy. They're like, okay, well, this guy whores a lot. He whores around. He's got lots and lots of hookers. So we're not going to tell his wife right now because, well, it's not, he still comes to and does his job. And if it gets out of hand, then maybe we'll bother him. But there's that. And then people who are, compulsive gamblers, they keep a record of that, because those people are also likely to take bribes. So they have reasons for, keeping all this data on all of the government employees, but totally unencrypted. I'm not sure I agree with the reasons for keeping it, but I'm also not sure I agree with the idiots in government doing this stuff. If I were, well, I can't say these things on the air because there will be people outside my house. But I was just going to say the Chinese, if they do release this information, it could be extraordinarily damaging to half the members of, well, probably more than half the members, probably most of the members of Senate and Congress.
It's like, how invasive are these exams? Okay, these are like background check, polygraph checks, that kind of thing. And so one of the things in the article was, how invasive are these exams? Well, they looked at it. One applicant admitted to shooting his 19-year-old son in the leg during a physical altercation sparked by an argument over whether his son's girlfriend could live with him in the applicant's grandmother's house. Wow.
It's like, I wonder how that escalated. I wonder if it was like an immediate thing. It was like, hey, I was thinking about moving in with my girlfriend. You what? Pulls gun right in the leg. Now, are you going to still move in with her? Like, is it like that? Or was it like, was there a fist fight? I want to watch that movie.
Well, our intelligence organization regularly tries to figure this stuff out on people that they want to spy on in foreign places. And they will set a literal honeypot trap where it's like, we're going to create a situation where this guy has an affair, and then we're going to use that against him because we think that's the best way to get whatever. And so now, with this file, basically everybody's deepest, darkest secrets that's, in the employ of the government, apparently, this is it's basically on the public internet at this point. Pretty much anybody can get this, I guess.
I guess another thing that I think is pretty ridiculous about this is the Office of Personal Management, the OPM. They're in charge of doing security for a lot of these other branches, and they're the ones who have been compromised, and they've been compromised, it looks like, repeatedly for several years, and we're just now finding out about this. Why? So, yeah, and the other thing that's pretty funny, let me pull this other article back up. If you work for the FBI, this is just another note into how ridiculous it is. If you work for the FBI, they will allow you to use password as your password. That's okay. The machine won't even tell you, hey, you may want to not use that as your password. But, if you work there, so that's just to give you an idea of how insecure.
I think it's IRS.
I'm sorry, IRS. Yeah, IRS. You're right. I've got it on the screen here, but I can't read. It is the IRS. But still, there's just so much data there. I wonder if the FBI will let you use password as your password. I don't know if FBI people, if you work there, if you work at the FBI and your password is password, go ahead and let us know in the comments. I'm just curious, just out of wild curiosity, just let us know what your name is and what your login info is. And if you use password, just say, hey, I also use that as my password. I'm an idiot. What can I say?
Pretty sure that there are enough spooks following us as it is.
As you say that, the closet door just slides open a little bit, and there's just two eyes in there, just watching me because we're talking about him. I'm like, it's okay. We'll get tacos later, okay? He's back in there. I don't know his name, but he loves tacos. Speaking of tacos, how about pita bread? So this is an interesting device. I don't even know why this is a cool article, but it's just a man-in-the-middle attack that they hid in some pita bread. I guess you could be good if you worked at a restaurant. You just don't eat that pita bread. I don't think that's a very good place to hide it. Pita bread is something that goes bad quickly and you throw away, or you eat it. There's that pita bread laying in the floor over there. Maybe we should get rid of it. I don't understand how you would hide pita bread that long, unless you own the establishment and then had one box or one bag of pita bread there. Maybe you got a falafel joint, and it's the last pita bread, and you just know that you never ever used that last pita bread. Other than that, I can't see this being a very sneaky way. I'm going to go to the store, and I'm going to leave this pita bread over here. Nobody will notice it because it's just pita bread, and that's the most harmless thing in the world. I don't know. I think there's a better way to hide it, but still, you can easily put enough electronics into pita bread to create a nice little man-in-the-middle attack, and then, suck up people's passwords and usernames and account info and all that kind of stuff.
Well, this particular thing works off of picking up the radio interference put off by a laptop's keyboard. This type of eavesdropping has existed for a long time. The most popular declassified one is the Echelon project, where you can pick up stray radio signals. This goes all the way back to CRTs, and even before CRTs, there were bugs that worked off of this that used analog. And it worked on analog electronics. There are some really great exhibits in the NSA museum just outside the NSA that has all of this kind of stuff. I mean, spies have put this kind of things like inside of desks. The Soviets put a completely passive one inside a wooden seal, and it was that one was an audio bug, but it's just as easy to do an electromagnetic field bug as well, and that's what this is. And so, like, if you get the pita bread close enough to the laptop, it can read the electromagnetic interference signals from the laptop in order to determine what keys have been pressed on the laptop. So in terms of like, if this is available to intelligence agencies, oh yeah, you bet. And is it this big? No, it's much smaller than this. This pita bread thing looks like somebody hacked together like a BeagleBone Black and a custom RF circuit, or maybe a software defined radio circuit. So this is what college kids are basically building these days. So you can imagine what the intelligence community has around this.
Yeah, they got a pretty good antenna on there. I would imagine it would be able to pick up, decently, but yeah, still, it's interesting. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some ISPs for just a minute. We don't have much to talk about as far as ISPs go. I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about was, wireless, like 4G to the home and that sort of thing, because, the companies out there like Verizon and stuff, they started out as using Fire Island as in New York as like a test. And then you've got companies like Time Warner and stuff. They're, instead of rolling out infrastructure, they're just putting an antenna on your house. But then you end up with the same sorts of restrictions you have with, a phone. You have massive data bandwidth caps, slow speed that's not consistent, and it gets congested during certain times of day. But there are a few companies that are not the major players that are out there. The companies like WebPass and that sort of thing. And they're getting stuff set up. Like WebPass does some pretty big antennas on the rooftops of buildings, and then they sell 500 megabits per second. People say that at first it wasn't very good, but they're getting better. And the data bandwidth caps, it doesn't seem to be that. Let me see if there even are caps. There we go. Yeah, no, that's what I thought. No data caps. So no data caps or overages or anything like that. So we have a company like that. And now that it's actually working, people are saying it's pretty good. And then there's a new company that's doing it direct to home. So it's not just an antenna on top of the building. So direct to home, it's 100 megabits per second, $60 a month. And, I read the article, but I really wanted to find out if any, see some of the stuff that the customers were saying. So I came down and read some of the comments. They're not here, but if you look at some of the comments, some people were saying at first they were terrible, and now they're actually working out okay. So is it viable? And also the ping is not too bad, because it's, as long as there's a tower nearby, the ping's not terrible, maybe even okay for gaming. So is it viable if companies do it right? That's the question. Is it okay if companies do it right? Is it still, it's never going to be as good as a fiber to the home, or even copper in a lot of instances, but is it okay if companies do not do data bandwidth caps, guarantee that they'll never do data bandwidth caps, and give you high speed for a decent price? Is it okay to do an antenna on top of the house? And that's something I'm kind of asking everyone out there in the audience. I want to know what you guys think of that, because I've always thought of it as being like, no, it's evil. It's just a lot of the, shitty companies out there trying to get away from having to run physical, cables or fiber or something like that. They're just trying to cheap out and take advantage of their customers and beat them over the head with overage fees and data bandwidth caps. But when we see it done like this, done somewhat correctly, is it okay? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, this makes me sad, because nothing is cheaper than running fiber to a house. The problem with running fiber to a house is the headache. And that's it. It is completely a human construct. It is completely a human problem. You have to get space on the poles. Maybe you have to trench it. Maybe you have to run it, underground. You have to keep track of which one goes where. With wireless, you can just throw these things up and you're basically done. But the equipment cost, on either end, you put these things on top of a house, that's good for what, 5 years? 10 at the most, but probably 5, maybe not even 5. With fiber optic, you lay that infrastructure down, it's good for 100 years. So while the cost of running fiber and dealing with the easements and the headache and that sort of thing is probably 2 to 3 times the cost of deploying this type of wireless ISP, it's going to be good for 100 years. So I don't know if we have the financial technology in order to be able to capitalize on, you know, 100-year infrastructure like that. It appears that we don't, and that's probably why we don't have fiber. We did that with copper because whatever, I mean, you look at it another way. It's like we wired the nation for copper. At this point, fiber and copper basically have cost parity. Fiber, when is being installed today, is about as expensive as copper was when it was originally being deployed nationwide. If we could do it with copper in the 1950s, why can't we do it with fiber today? I don't understand. It's like we keep coming up with all these cool technologies to avoid running fiber, and it's just to me it's just belly aching. It's like our great grandfathers did this across they didn't even have, you know, digital computers. They had analog computers. Why can't we run fiber across the country? This is ridiculous.
You know, I want to mention before we move on that the second company we had on the screen here, I believe they're called Vivint. They don't exactly do the same 4G type thing. What they do is they have one house that's like a hub, and that house gets free internet. And there's 300 up, 300 down, somewhere in that range. And they put a giant antenna on their house, and all their neighbors have access to that, and their neighbors pay for it. So it's a different business model, but still, it is. You know, only one of the places actually has a connection, and that's the hub. Man, if I was the hub, I'd want to like turn it off and be like, no one else can have it. Just leave me alone. But yeah, you're totally right.
Probably is better for those people.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's talk about Charter. So Charter, a couple of months ago, Charter is interesting because in different parts of the country they are very different. Just like Comcast, in different parts of the country they are very different. In Vermont, there's competition. There's gigabit for $30 a month, $40 a month. So, you know, they weren't enforcing their data bandwidth caps, and they were trying to upgrade things. Massachusetts, right? Charter's there, and there were no data bandwidth caps in Massachusetts last I checked. But they had some pretty bad ones in the Midwest. Well, a few months ago, they kind of just like stopped with the data bandwidth caps. They're just like, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. I think a lot of it was like seeing the whole change of the way things are going, and they're not one of the big guys. They're one of the smaller companies, but they want to buy some companies. So they stopped their, you know, their evil business practice, and now they want to buy Time Warner. Yep. I'll let you take it from here.
They're, I think, the third largest cable company, so it's not like exactly like they're small, but they want to buy Time Warner, and they want to be seen to be not hideously evil like Comcast, or Comcast is, you know, hideously evil, and Time Warner is merely greedy to the point of being evil. And Charter wants to present itself as being, oh, you know, we're totally cool ISP. So they hired one of the critics, one of the people that has been spearheading net neutrality and this, that, and the other, and he said, all right, in order to hire me, you're going to have to agree to these tenets. And they're pretty restrictive. They're pretty specific tenets on, you know, you're going to be a good steward of your infrastructure. You're going to do this, that, and the other. And if Charter is being genuine with what they want to do, then this is probably a good thing, because the guy that is a proponent of net neutrality is basically being put in charge of their net neutrality policies. And so they're agreeing to even more than the FCC is asking them to agree to, and trying to set some specific rules and some specific sort of goalposts for how they're going to operate and how they're going to take money. And they're not going to do deals like the Netflix, you know, traffic carrying thing that is all kinds of weird. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. It's on our radar. I'm going to withhold judgment. That's just sort of the facts on the ground at this point. It'll be interesting to see if this is just political maneuvering and lip service, or if they're actually committed to this.
Yeah, it always worries me when you see one of these big companies getting even bigger and swallowing each other up, because it removes a choice for the consumer, as if they actually had a choice in the first place.
Yeah, they definitely don't have a choice in the first place. So, Time Warner, they've all been very careful not to compete with one another, so they've already done an end run around capitalism.
So, I mean, we used to have hundreds of companies, and now we've only got a small handful, and I don't know, it just worries me that we have so few companies, even if they, I mean, I guess it would be, I'd rather have this happen than Comcast buy Time Warner. So this is better than that, but we're still going to have fewer choices. Well, yeah, see, I keep going back. There's no choice in the first place, so yeah. All right, next up on the list, T-Mobile. The bandwidth caps, T-Mobile. I did not know that T-Mobile had bandwidth caps, so Yeah, 21 gigabyte cap, because I guess their networks can't exactly handle all the people. So I'm not even sure what to say about this, because I've uploaded lots and lots of stuff on T-Mobile. We did like about that much when we went to Vegas. We used our T-Mobile plan to upload everything back to the office because the hotel was just too damn slow. So
This is interesting though, because it's not throttling for the sake of throttling, which was definitely provably happening in some other cases. It says, as T-Mobile explains it, the data deprioritization, which isn't the same sort of indiscriminate throttling that the industry has practiced in the past, the company claims, is a necessary feature of a well-functioning network. Very heavy usage by even a few customers at times and places of competing network demands can affect the network performance for all customers, T-Mobile's policy reads. So what they seem to be saying is that once you've crossed this threshold, your data will be deprioritized in favor of other people that are using the services. So if the services are not overloaded, you are still going to get, whatever speed it can deliver. But if the network services are overloaded, there's a lot of people on the tower, the people are competing for resources, and you've already used 21 gigabytes, then you're going to be put in a lower priority pool to have your data requests serviced. I don't know that I have a problem with that. It's in the fine print of the agreement. I wish that they wouldn't call it unlimited. The biggest problem that I might have with it is that they're calling it unlimited and they're not being as upfront about the 21 gigabyte limit. But with the way that 4G is implemented and the fact that America doesn't have enough 4G towers, anytime there's like a natural disaster and somebody is trying to call somebody else, the cellular network is completely overloaded. This is a problem that we have in America. Again, this is why we need fiber optics everywhere. So I don't know that I don't know that I have a problem, but it makes me upset that the situation exists that they would need to do that, but it is what it is.
So essentially, you get your T-Mobile service plan and you get a ladle, and you show up and you just keep sticking your ladle in there and filling up your bowl. And you do it like 5 or 6 times, and then they come on and then they slap you on the wrist and say, here's a tiny little spoon. So, but they don't tell you that when you buy it. That's what you're saying, is they don't tell you that they're going to switch you to a small spoon if you take 5 bowls.
They only switch you to a small spoon if there are other people waiting in line that haven't been fed 85 times.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that either. So,
but is that a disincentive to upgrade their infrastructure for natural usage? That is the question. And if it is a disincentive for them to upgrade their infrastructure, then that is a problem. I think in order to determine that, I think you'd have to look at, what percentage of customers are using more than 21 gigabytes. If a lot of customers are using more than 21 gigabytes, then clearly that's a problem. A lot of customers are going, if they had the choice, a lot of customers are going to use more than 21 gigabytes. If T-Mobile starts selling a fixed connection on your house, and it's like that's your primary internet connection, 21 gigabytes is like 3 high-res movies on Netflix. Not really, that's hyperbole, but so 21 gigabytes obviously is a problem in that scenario. You would expect T-Mobile to roll out more towers to be able to handle that. So there is room for abuse. They totally could abuse that, but all things being equal, that may not be that terrible.
I think I want to hang out with this guy one day, just run around Seattle and just see how he responds to things, because he curses like a New Englander. And it would be interesting because people don't curse that. I mean, they do, but not nearly as much here, and they give you funny looks when you say certain things. I would just want to see how he responds to that, because I guarantee you that when he goes around town, people give him some funny looks for some of the things that come out of his mouth. That's what I would think. It would be interesting to hang out and watch that.
They've also got this unmetered radio service deal, and it would be interesting. It's like, if I can do the unmetered radio service, and that's a faster speed than my over 21 gig throttled ladle speed, I'm going to have a problem with that, and that's going to make me very upset. I think that would be legally actionable for a lawsuit, in fact.
I think they should adopt our stupid ladle and spoon method for their marketing. It would be great. Think of it. You just have pictures of soup all over your store. That attracts people to buy phones, right? And then ladles. That's a great way to talk about data bandwidth, right? No, it's not. All right, let's just move on here. IPv4 is pretty much over. There's none left. No more IPv4. When the hell are we? Did we have to wait until IPv4 was pretty much gone before we even started thinking about moving to IPv6? Is it time yet? I mean, how many
It's all down to
ISPs
the
are even using
ISPs.
this?
Oh,
We've got
actually,
to
a lot of
switch.
ISPs are using IPv4. A lot of ISPs are not yet using what's called carrier grade NAT, which will free up large pools of IPv4 addresses, which is okay, I guess. But there are a lot of ISPs that are not yet using IPv6. IPv6 is going to have all kinds of security problems when it rolls out, not because of any inherent problems with IPv6, but just because literally every device in your network can have a public internet address, and that is not something that you want. Because I mean, if you look at your firewall traffic now, I guarantee that you're probably getting 300 attempts to access various ports on your IP address a day, and you generally don't want to accept anything inbound. You can, set up your firewall to have rules to, prevent that traffic or block it or whatever. But vendors that are doing consumer grade stuff, it's just going to be squirrely. Even the commercial grade stuff is kind of squirrely around IPv6 and deciding what types of traffic are allowed and what types of traffic are not allowed, and detecting Trojans and traffic analysis and that kind of thing. So the transition to IPv6 is going to be a rocky one, even when all the connections have full IPv6 support.
All right, more internet stuff. Let's talk about ICANN. ICANN is discussing the possibility of releasing all WHOIS data, including the stuff that was supposed to be private. Yeah. So I guess they're trying to say, or a lot of people are encouraging ICANN to do this because they're saying like, oh, companies and individuals are hiding behind these shady proxies, and no one really knows who they are, and that shouldn't be the way things are. We should be able to look up and figure out who this is. But the WHOIS data is generally pretty. It's usually some pretty deep data. You get like phone numbers and everything. A lot of times, the amount of stuff that you have to put in is it's pretty private, like addresses and everything else. So if you want to maintain privacy on the internet, you guys can go ahead and put your number in here and call them. I really hope they don't do this. I'm totally cool with domains being private on the internet because privacy is an important thing. And if someone wishes something to be private, it should be private. They paid for the service. They paid for the website. It's theirs. They don't want anyone to know it's theirs. Whatever. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with privacy here. But I can also see the fact that of course, someone's going to argue that people are trying to be sneaky and hide behind their proxy here with this. So, I don't know. Does anyone out there think that ICANN should make all WHOIS data public knowledge? Anybody out there? I'm curious.
This WHOIS information is normally public. You have to opt into a proxy or privacy program in order to make it non-public. So you have to want to protect your privacy as far as the domain names go in the first place. Now, sometimes with a commercial entity, it's not really a big deal, but let's say that you have a cottage industry and you don't really want to put your home address on there. So, then maybe you would want to register privately. So people that are running a business out of their home are the types of people who would probably object to this because it's kind of crazy. They say that this is because of the whole Mark Monitor. We've heard of Mark Monitor before, the crazy people that are just like, oh my God, I heard 2 seconds of a song. Let's take it down. Take it down. We're going to monetize it. It's ours. It belongs to us. So those are the people that are fighting for this so they can move more quickly from a legal standpoint instead of subpoenaing from one of the privacy organizations who actually owns a domain name. They just want to be able to move faster. But I think this is probably their interests in pursuing copyright cases against people that are doing things on domains is probably less than the desire to have individuals and small businesses maintain their privacy information. So
let's move on and talk about some scientific type things. So there's a mood altering wearables are hitting the market. This is actually already on the market, and so this guy from The Guardian actually went and tried it on. So the idea here is that you put this on your head and it communicates with you to either make you calm. They say it can actually energize you, give you energy. So it can do a couple different things. And, he puts it on. The thing that I found strange about the test was that they put it on him and they're like, hey, you're supposed to be relaxed and stress-free. And then he went outside and he was like, oh, I'm relaxed and stress-free. So I was wondering if maybe his brain wasn't just telling him that he was supposed to be relaxed and stress-free. I would want to do a test where someone put it on my head and put it on a setting like either energetic or relaxed, and then didn't tell me what setting it was on. And then I would want to go out and test it and see like how I feel, and then get back and be like, okay, I was extremely relaxed, even though a bus slammed into a giraffe in front of me. And I was like, huh, that's pretty cool. And then they could be like, oh yeah, it was on the relaxation setting, you know? So that's the way I would want to test it. But
there's a project called Open EEG, and I was on their mailing list for a long time and built some stuff way back a long time ago. And with Open EEG, you basically build an electroencephalograph and hook yourself up to it, and it's cool because you can, like, it's not direct, I guess, it's sort of indirect. And so if you want to calm yourself down or you want to, feel better, you can look at what the patterns are, on the EEG, and sort of, concentrate or meditate or whatever you want to call it to sort of get those numbers in line. That actually helped me a lot. I mean, especially with like stress and dealing with general insanity. The electroencephalograph, like sort of being able to look at it and sort of say, okay, let's, take a deep breath, calm, rational, find your happy place. It seemed to work really well. So I think this is probably plausible, but we need to get one to try it.
Yeah, I agree. I've got one of those upstairs somewhere, one of those devices, but it's supposed to train you to, be stress-free and meditate and all that. I haven't actually used it yet. I usually just go for a beer instead because I'm afraid I might get addicted to the thing. Oh, wait.
That's not how that works at all.
That's the other question. Suppose they actually do make this, and as the technology gets better, because this device is a little different. The EEG device, it helps you to see
help yourself.
It helps you to help yourself, exactly. This one is supposedly doing things. It's like a drug. I mean, it's essentially like an electronic drug. It changes stuff that's going on in your mind. It changes the frequency. It messes with the frequencies, man. So
I already saw the end game version of this. It was monkeys that had a button that was hooked up to the pleasure center of their brain, and they stopped caring about everything, eating, pooping, nothing. The only thing they did was push the button. So I've already seen how this plays out. We need to not build this.
So you're saying that we won't get anything done other than just sitting in a chair, pressing a button, being like, oh, that feels good. That's nice.
Yes, that is exactly what happened with a lot of monkeys.
Okay, so these things are going to be on the market. And I think we could have a scenario here where we do have an addiction problem with these things. It'll remove depression. That's kind of magical. Maybe it'll help people get things done. Maybe they'll use it as like their as like a less annoying version of Adderall. God, people on Adderall need to be punched. They drive me insane. It's like, shut up and listen.
How long until employers require that, though? It's like, oh, you're not outputting at your optimum output levels. And it's like, sorry, corporate master, I'll try again.
Well, you're going to get the headband now. Oh, yeah. That'd be fun. Or we could just do something like, they're doing in Alaska with HARP, and then make HARP set up so that it'll just, massively spread these frequencies of happiness to everyone. That would be neat, wouldn't it? So that's why they call it HARP. It's so soothing. Let's talk about terraforming Mars. That's what I want to talk about right now. There we go. So DARPA says that they are already engineering organisms that will terraform Mars. So a lot of people, DARPA is interesting. A lot of people are talking about all these things, and DARPA will come out and be like, yeah, I've been working on that for about 4 years, and it's at stage 4, and we were like, oh, we were talking about like making a sci-fi movie, but you guys are already doing it. Cool. So they are actually trying to engineer life forms, and right now there's not a lot we can do with the engineering of life forms. But what they're trying to do is develop a kit where you can pull traits from almost anything and put them together, and then make make a new organism. Here it is. We've taken all these different traits from all these different things, and now we've taken some traits from some stuff that lives on the bottom of the sea and is powered by sulfur, and we've taken some of that, and we've taken some of this, and we've taken some trees, and we've taken some, I don't know, whatever else, and now we've got trees that will live on the surface of Mars and help develop a thicker ozone layer, essentially, an atmosphere. So I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this, but
This is
be
what we need to
interesting.
do. We need to be getting on this in the lab. I went to I went to a talk given by Robert Zerbin many years ago, and he was sort of big on let's go to Mars, and I think the terraforming project has been around for a while at DARPA because he was talking about it then, and it was probably about 10 years ago, and it was really interesting to hear his plans for it's like we can do nuclear power in a crater, and within it's not something that's going to happen in 10 years or 20 years. It's more like a time scale of 100 years, but in the time scale of 100 years it is starting to be within our grasp to be able to terraform Mars, and I think that we should. I think that that's a much better long-term plan than temporary habitats or habitats that we can live inside a habitat, but then if we go outside we die, and that sort of thing. The better thing is to for long term is terraforming. The bad news is that the gravity and the situation with the atmosphere on Mars is not such that it's really enough to protect us from cosmic rays and that sort of thing. So that may be a problem long term. But it would be nice to it would be nice to get started with this, and we can set it up in a lab here. We don't have to do this on Mars. We can create models in the lab. We can create computer models. We should be pouring a lot of money into this. Honestly, we need to remember our goal as nerds should be to turn the military industrial complex into the space industrial complex. Let's mine the moon for resources instead of killing people in the Middle East.
Yeah, if we could only have science without greed. Send them to the moon, guys. All right. Let's move on to some video gaming stuff. Warren Spector is calling VR a fad, and he's got a bunch of interesting points here. If you don't know who Warren Spector is, I don't know why you're watching this program. Warren Spector, he created Deus Ex and lots of other games. As you guys can see the list right here. Thief and System Shock, he had a hand in. He wasn't like the main guy on those, but he had a hand in all those. He also did some work on Epic Mickey. Anyway, so I saw this, and VR it's crazy right now. Everyone loves it. It's like the thing that everyone wants to talk about. And I was like, man, he must be getting old if he's calling it a fad. But then I read some of his points, and I think he may be onto a few different things, and I kind of agree with him on some things. I guess the main thing is that it's big, it's bulky, it's uncomfortable, and it completely removes you from your environment. And there's a quote right here. He said, I mean, if someone's sneaking up behind me with a baseball bat, I would want to know about it. You know what I mean? And let's not talk about nausea. So I guess some people are still, getting nauseated from it. I'm not sure if that's as big of an issue anymore. A lot of people have been addressing that. But he did say that HoloLens was okay. So,
Which is weird.
yeah. So I guess we could predict, sort of talk about the future of VR, because I've always thought that right now these things, yeah, they're going to sell, and some people are going to grab them, but I don't think that that's where VR is going. And they're too big and bulky and ridiculous. And everyone talks about the Rift. We got John Carmack working on the Rift, and Facebook owns the Rift, which may be a better place for Oculus technology, like virtual shops and that sort of thing. But for me it is too much of a separation from my surroundings, and that's also why I wear open headphones, so I can hear things that are happening. Well, other than the fact that they sound better, but I can hear things that are happening in the room. I don't like to be completely isolated from my surroundings, and I think a lot of people out there would agree. And I don't know, is there more to this? Does he have a point? Is this something that's only for a select group of people who are willing to put on that bulky thing and wear it for hours at a time? I think maybe. And I don't know, Wendell, what do you think? What do you think's the next thing that's going to be, what's the next version of VR? We've come a long way since Virtual Boy, but what's next?
I think that there's two things here. I think that one, for portable computing, I think that VR is going to be really popular. What if you can shrink something down even smaller than a laptop? What if you have a wireless keyboard that's projecting into like a pair of sunglasses? Totally, people would carry that around and use that instead of a laptop. I think that would work way better. If you could actually have a pair of transparent glasses that become opaque, like as if there's a screen projected in front of you, like a traditional computer. That's probably more augmented reality than the Oculus Rift. I think that'll sell like hotcakes tomorrow. I think that for like desktop computers, I think that it's going to be a slower adaptation, except among enthusiasts. enthusiasts will probably look at it and say, oh yeah, this is really great. But for portable stuff, for portable computers, that's probably honestly what's going to drive it, because you could have a really high resolution screen. I mean, imagine being able to lug around, even a relatively bulky, pair of glasses. If that would give you, dual 27-inch monitors, or like as if dual 27-inch monitors, or 40-inch monitor, or whatever obscene resolution, and the head tracking and the movement and that kind of thing was all there, I think people would do that in a heartbeat. I would do that in a heartbeat. A lot of mobile workers would do that in a heartbeat. A lot of hipsters that are working at, Starbucks would totally do that. So that kind of thing may drive the technology more than anything, especially on the augmented reality side. And I think that's what Microsoft's going for more than gaming. And I think that's why a lot of their demos, I mean, their demos have Minecraft, but let's face it, Minecraft is not the stuff that we've seen from NVIDIA and other gaming companies in terms of immersive, full VR titles.
Let's just quickly do the other side of the coin here, and that's, some games the experience is so good. Like this is Eve here running at 1080p, 60 FPS, and you can tell he's looking around his cockpit and that sort of thing. And for a lot of flight sims, Star Citizen coming out, Elite Dangerous, for some of these games the experience is so good that it's almost worth the trade-off. So that's the other side of it. It's just so good that it's worth it. And I want to know what side you guys are on with this whole thing. Is it just that good that it's completely worth it, or is it just too big and bulky still? All right. Last thing I'm going to talk about for the day here, this ridiculous Batman thing. We don't even really want to talk about it. I just want to say screw you, Warner Brothers, for thinking that a console game was going to work on PC. That's all there is to it. They tried to release a console game with console limitations built into it, like 30 FPS frame lock and stuff, and they're like, hey, nobody will notice this. We notice things.
Oops. Yeah, did not
how much do you hate us?
No interest in this.
Yeah, how much do they hate us? It looked like a pretty cool open world game, and some of the last Batman games have been pretty interesting, but I just want to know how much Warner Brothers hates us, or how much how stupid do you think we are? Like, oh, those stupid PC gamers, they're too busy doing their taxes. They'll never notice it's locked at 30 FPS. This is what you get. And now you had to take it down because the negative press and the negative reviews were so bad. So
my favorite thing was people were messing with the INI files, and they were like, what are you doing messing with the INI files? That should totally not be a thing. That should totally not even, we should totally not mess with the INI files. What are you doing? That's like voodoo. Stop that. It's like, I'm sorry. No, this is not Apple or a console. We can totally mess with stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that makes Skyrim a good game, the fact that you can mess with those INI files and totally destroy your game if you want to, but you're allowed to do it. But you can make it better, You can make it quite a bit better by messing with a few files here and there. So I don't think they understand anything about anything anymore. That's bad. Warner Brothers, you're bad. Bad people. And I hope you don't sleep at night. Anyway. At the end of the show, sorry it's a day late, but, we got the new studio. It just took a lot of extra time to put together, way too long. So, because everything's still in boxes. But
you guys should check out our hardware videos and our Linux videos. We've done 2 Linux videos in the last week because we're trying to average about 1 every 2 weeks. But the NAS repair has taken a long time. So, but that's basically done. I'm
almost back in the swing of things. Now that I've got this studio, I can actually start doing stuff again. Before I was like, oh man, making a video is going to be so difficult because I don't have anywhere to make it, and I just kind of have to sit here at my desk, and now my actual desk area is no longer a cluttered mess full of cameras and lights and stuff. We've got a studio. It feels nice for the next few months anyway. Then we've got to move because this is only a short-term rental. Everyone's like in the comments like, why the hell do you move so much? Nah, I don't know.
We'd rather have a bunch of mediocre offices instead of one, paid for by the fans. It's really nice. That can't go anywhere.
I don't know about that. I think they did it the right way because now they've got a nice big place. Maybe. Anyway,
you guys would help us. We know you would. It's cool.
But we haven't asked. I can already hear people in the comments crying, guys. Just shut up. Nobody cares about you whining about stuff.
We're just goofing off.
Yeah. We're not goofing off. We're hateful. All right.
No.
The shirt of the month, guys. This is like your last chance to get the shirt of the month. I think I'm not even sure what today's date is. So, get the shirt of the month. It's pixel art. We want to do more pixel art shirts, and if you guys like it, grab it. That's the end of the thing. So I've done our sales pitch. Was this supposed to be a Squarespace episode?
Yes. It's 2 a month. So did we do 2 this month already?
I'll throw one in here. Right. So I hope you guys enjoyed the Squarespace ad that was earlier in the video. And we'll see you guys on the website.